Oh my God, I hope that didn't sound as bad for you out there as it did in here. But I think John warned me that the audio was bad. So welcome to Progressive California. If you hear an echo, please let us know. You guys are great.
Yeah.
We are not to be outdone by what we try to do every day. We are trying to bring in not only one, but two, but three guests. That's Danielle putting on her microphone.
Yep.
At the moment. Oh my God, you guys, I'm sorry. So we have three guests with us tonight. We have Freeman Michaels, who is joining our Progressive California team, and we'll get him on camera there. We also have Danielle St, who is running for Congress in California District 49. And Steve Cox, who's running for California District in 39. And I'm completely...
Not Steve.
Steve?
I'm here. I'm stuck right here.
No.
Okay. There's two of me. So yeah, we've poor John, our faithful producer. We have done this at the last minute. We are short one camera, so he's going to be doing some fancy footwork. Welcome everybody. This is our last Progressive California before the California primary on Tuesday, June 5th. And we have brought in a couple of candidates who are in the Southern California area to kind of share their perspectives about what it's been like. We called this show Tales from the Trail, meaning the campaign trail. And we want to give these folks a chance to tell us a little bit, give us their perspective on what it's been like to be running as a progressive in this particular campaign, especially, and their thoughts. So before I get into that, though, I want to introduce Joseph. And this is an engagement broadcast, and I want to give Joseph a chance to explain to us what engagement is about and how you can participate.
Do my usual spiel, basically.
Yes.
This is an engagement broadcast, which means that our awesome viewers get to ask questions through the live chat. I'll be the chat moderator during the conversation, I guess, today. And if you have questions for any of our guests today, either put the word question in front or tag me in at Joseph Sakata.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Joseph. So I would like to first introduce Freeman Michaels. Freeman was a candidate for Congress in District 52 in San Diego. I know I keep bringing up this painful subject.
I know, everyone does.
I know, but we saw a lot of this type of thing happen. What happened to your race, and share that with us?
Yeah, long story short, it's not that hard to run for Congress, but at the same time, there's a lot of little busy work, and you have to get 40 signatures from your district, and they have to be from people who are registered to vote, which makes sense, and you're allowed to turn in up to 80. And the process is you gather the signatures, you generally go to a college campus, and then you can validate the names and addresses on their computers at the voter registrars. So of course we did that. Mm-hmm. We turned in, I think, 55 signatures, 51 should have been valid. They responded back in an email saying only 49 were valid, but there were enough signatures that didn't match the voter record that I didn't have enough valid signatures. So the names and addresses matched, but the signatures did not match. And mind you, these are signatures that you're gathering from random people on the street. And it's not like I would say, is this your real signature? So it's kind of, it's like maybe they were just looking at me a little closer because I wasn't a party and I didn't have lawyers. But at the same time, to me, it just shows how silly the whole system is and how it just discourages change and new ideas.
Oh, well, that's a real shame. We're getting a little bit of echo. Danielle, could you mute for a second and check? I don't know if it's coming from your side.
It might be me.
Okay. Yeah, it might be you. You don't have headphones on. Anyway, well, Freeman, I'm really glad that you have brought in Danielle and Steve today. We're going to start with a little conversation with Steve and talk about his campaign and his where he is in California.
That's correct.
Surrounded.
Yes, he's surrounded. Surrounded. And that's on slide 12.
All right. And sorry, Steve, that you have there we go. That's Danielle's district map. Yeah. Anyway, Steve, why don't you answer the question that everyone wants to ask initially? Why are you running for Congress?
Well, that's actually the easiest one for me to answer. It's one of those things I've been talking myself out of for years and years. And when the sort of straw that broke the camel's back was my father's a Vietnam War vet, and he served 3 tours in Vietnam in the Marine Corps. And in 2007, he came down with a cancer called mantle cell lymphoma from Agent Orange exposure. And the VA denied him his benefits for a while. It took him a long time to get the benefits he was supposed to get. And when they finally, I think honestly, the VA was just hoping he'd die. I think everybody prior to my dad did die from that cancer. Like, it never got put in remission, but he went to City of Hope. My mom had great insurance, and so it got put into remission 3 times, and he's lost his salivary gland, also his prostate, and he had a pulmonary embolism from the effects of the chemo. And then a little less than 2 years ago, the VA cut his disability in half. They said that he's less disabled now because his cancers are in remission. And we all tried to get in touch with our Congress people and do the things that we need to do, and we got no joy. So I was kind of, lamenting that, talking to my wife about it here at home and talking to some other friends. But my wife, Erica, is wonderful. And she, we were sitting here, and I just said, I was kind of going like, when are we going to have a candidate or even a government, that actually is responsive to the people, that does the things that we need to get done? Because if the government's not even going to treat like their most patriotic demographic right. Veterans, people who actually fought for this country, what chance do the rest of us have, And
yeah, it's like that's the one thing that both sides would absolutely stubbornly agree on: treat the vets well.
That's right.
And it's not happening.
Yeah, so I sat here and I was kind of lamenting that with my wife, like, just kind of like, when's this person going to come along that I could get behind? And pardon my French, but she basically just said shit or get off the pot. So,
yeah.
Like, okay, there's times that I argue with my wife, but I know when, and she was right. I had to get up and get out and try and be that person. So that's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm doing.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
No, it's crazy too. It's the weirdest experience I've ever had, but it's everything about it is amazing. Honestly, it's really awesome.
Yeah. What's like the big highlight right now? Like, you look back and you're like, that was a point that just hit me.
The biggest one, when I started canvassing my district, I talk to everybody. I don't care. I'm an independent. So how it usually goes is like,
I see you on Twitter.
Yeah. And how it usually goes is like, I knock on a door and they say, hi. I say, hi, I'm Steve Cox. I'm running for Congress here. And then they fold their arms in front of them like this. And they go, which party? And I go, I'm an independent. And then they go, oh, okay. And then they want to talk. And that to me is the power of being outside of the party system. You can talk to anybody and they'll talk to you. Yeah. And so as part of that, the best story I have, because it illustrates everything to me, is that I was talking to a Trump supporter. Had a Trump Pence sticker on his truck. He had his own flagpole with an American flag on it in his front yard and a light on it and everything. Super patriot guy, which I'm perfectly fine with. And he wanted to talk about immigrants. He wanted to talk about all the sort of cut and paste things. But after a decent conversation, he's on board. He's talking about universal health care. He gets it. He wants that. He ends up putting my sign in his yard. I went directly across the street to talk to a man who's an illegal immigrant who came here in 1986 and then got amnesty and is now a citizen. And he works in a warehouse. He drives a Nissan Leaf, and after a short conversation, he put my sign in his yard, and then I stood back in the middle of the street because it wasn't a very busy street, and I just kind of looked side to side like, you guys should talk to each other.
Right.
And that's the thing that kills me, is that I don't think people are different. I think we're the same. We're all the same. It's like a core belief I have. And it's proven every day. All you have to do is break down the facts and the data for people and speak to them like they're not idiots, and they get it. And then, and in the end, that was, but to me, that's the ultimate right there, and it was early on.
Do you find that people are okay with you disagreeing with them as long as you are calm and rational about it? Because I see you on Twitter, and you and I both argue with anyone.
Yeah.
But you also, I would imagine, speak your mind with the people you're meeting.
I think it's essential. I've actually corrected people when they had the wrong idea about me, but was happy about it. Like they're like, oh, I really like this. And they started to go down the wrong path. And they're supporting me under false pretenses, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then I stop them. I'm like, okay, look, this is the truth of it. I want to talk to you. I want you to understand who I really am. And, that you may have this thing wrong. And in the end, they actually like me more for doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Honesty is something, politicians are known for being liars, and it's an earned reputation. And I just don't, I'm not a liar. So it is what it is. And I don't see my job as to try and win an election or to try and covet certain issues in order to win at the ballot box. I see my position as trying to bring people on board with the things that I believe and why I believe them, so that they can then support me in principle, and I can then go out and do the work that I need to do in order to, mm-hmm. make our country.
So you were a Bernie guy in 2016, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you say when you are out canvassing, and what do you tell people are kind of your core issues?
It depends on who they are, but. I'll tell you, my number one core issue is getting money out of politics, and that's the easiest one. I even signed a contract with the candidates with the contract people that is an anti-corruption contract, so I don't take any money from special interests and anything like. Truth is I have a hard time taking money from anybody. I feel weird asking for money, and that's one thing that I'm going to have to fix as we go forward, whether I make it out of Tuesday or not. I'm running again. It doesn't matter. I ain't going anywhere. And I have to learn how to ask for money, which I don't like doing. But so that's the big thing. But in that contract, what I had added to it, and this is my big issue, is it's about bringing an accountability back to Congress. So, I want to introduce, and I've put it in the contract, that I will introduce legislation to base congressional pay on the median wage in the district they represent. Mm-hmm. So if they want to raise, their district has to do better. When their district starts making more money, they'll make more money. And as part of that, because I know it's going to get voted down, and it's not like there's going to be a line outside of Steve Cox's door at the Capitol, like, hey, what can we do for you today, right? So they're going to vote that down, if it makes it to a vote at all. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually be donating my own pay above the median in the district. So the median household wage in the district is about $80,000. Mm-hmm. Congress makes about $174,000 a year. So I'm going to keep only the 80, and the other $94,000 a year I'm going to be donating to teachers in the district to reimburse them for supplies they have to pay for out of their own pocket.
Awesome.
So to me, that is that's the one that resonates with everybody, and it doesn't matter who I talk to, because they all know that the government doesn't really work for them and doesn't represent them. And if somebody's willing to put their money where their mouth is and actually do something that everybody can agree that teachers shouldn't have to pay for their supplies in the first place.
Right.
So it's one of these, it's an easy issue. It's easy to regulate. I won't have to worry about, spending a lot of overhead to pay people to administer the money or anything. Mm-hmm. And, but that, to me, that's the number one issue as far as I'm concerned.
Do you find that maybe the traditional ways of fundraising and sending out flyers may not even be all that relevant anymore? That's like, because it seems like a lot of people just trash all those flyers, and who watches TV ads?
No, I know. I fast forward through everything on, any advertisement on TV. Mm-hmm. And, I still have, I know the issues that we have with our voting system, and it drives me crazy. It's on one of the positions on my website, and it has been since I launched the website. It's about returning to paper ballots and making sure that there are paper ballots in the paper record of votes. But that said, I still do at the core believe that we're gonna that votes matter, and that if I get enough votes, I can win. And so I don't put any value in those advertisements or anything. I go around and I talk to people. I've been doing that. I've probably walked 100 miles the last 3 months.
And you mentioned that in our pre-warm up, and I was like, because I also noticed what you post on Twitter. Again, you know, I follow a lot of people and we talk about stuff, and you made a comment that you're not going to be outworked, and it really seems like that's the case. Like you really hit the pavement, literally and figuratively.
Yeah. You know, okay, so I sent you guys the pictures. You know, the weird thing, it's a weird thing to do, but I'm a motocross racer. Okay, that's my background. I raced motocross coming up. I was a child. I raced for 10 years. I was a local SoCal pro guy, and you know, for a very short period of time. But I'm good on a motorcycle. I ride a motorcycle well. And there's something about, and this is going to sound very cliche, but it's just true. There's something about losing and then letting that loss fuel you so that you go home and you train and you practice, and then you go out and you do it again, and then you lose again, and then you go home and you train and you practice, and you go out and you lose again. Then you do, and you know, and then next time maybe you crash and you break your arm, and then you got to wait for 2 months, and the whole time you're just sitting there going, all I want to do is get back on the track and beat those people that keep beating me. And so to me, that is who I am. And you know, I don't know of anybody that's going to end up in this race against me this time, next time, who's got that in their back pocket.
Absolutely.
It's, you know, it feels a little bit like I'm puffing up my own chest or whatever, but it's just who I am. And I know that I'm going to put in everything I've got to win. And so I think I will at some point.
All righty. Well, I think that's it for your time. Do we want to do other questions, or should we move to Danielle?
I'm good with whatever you guys want to do.
Do we have any questions, Joseph, from the audience?
It doesn't look like it, no.
Okay.
And then John, let me know if the latency changes, because I started the streaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, the sun is really taking its time.
That's that time of year.
This wouldn't have been so bad if Danielle didn't steal the main light at the last second.
But Danielle looks fabulous. So
Freeman does look fabulous.
Yeah. You know, the Earth rotates at the same rate, like every single day.
It's flat, and there's a cat hitting stuff at the end of the Earth.
Knocking things off. Steve, thank you so much for joining us at short notice, and
no problem
for being patient with our technical issues. Let us know what's your website. Where can people go to learn more about you?
Voteforcox.com. On that website, you're going to find over 30,000 words of policy that I wrote. And that's one thing I want to say. If you want one takeaway from this whole thing for me, is that I'm a total geek. I have 30,000 words of policy that I source everything. I put all the data, you know, on, and depending on the issue, I try to pick the data that goes with the people I'm trying to convince. So, on universal healthcare, I try to cite data sources from right-wing sources, because I feel like those are the people I have to convince that this is the right thing to do. But the point is I put a lot of effort into that, and I wrote it all myself and edited it all myself. But in the end, what I actually, the part that I thought that I wasn't going to like, which is going around and talking to people, I thought they would hate me because I'm a politician. I'm like knocking on their doors. And in the end, that's the best. It's absolutely the best. And it doesn't matter what side, this mythical side thing, it doesn't matter what side they're on. You know, they're people, and they're fantastic, and I just really enjoy it. So that to me is the best part, which I did not expect at all.
Well, thank you for running. It is the hardest thing. And as you said, it's been a long, strange trip, and we look forward to catching up with you on the other side and see what's going on.
All right. Thank you.
So I think we're going to bring in Danielle now. Freeman, why don't you give Danielle an introduction?
All right. She appears to be not on mute. That's good.
Good.
Oh, now it's me. Sun's still there.
This is Robin Clever. There she is.
But my light's good, I think.
Yes. Oh, your light's fabulous. Oh, there she
is.
That's
what's important.
Yes. So we have Danielle St. who's running for Congress in Congressional District 49, which is, we have heard about this district. This was Darrell Issa's district that he has given up. He's not running for re-election. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
I actually kind of, talked a little bit of trash on Facebook and other social media sites to Darrell Issa, but really it wasn't until I found out that he was not going to run that I really started considering it seriously.
Yeah. Well, good. And we have interviewed Doug Applegate, who is also running for that role. Tell us a little bit about your platform and you know, what is your main core issue that you are wanting to talk about?
Okay, thank you. So basically, cooperative economy is my platform, but nobody knows what that is. So how I translate this into something that people politically minded can understand is number one issue is money out of politics, right? So that, you know, rinse and repeat with any issue, virtually any issue that we're facing right now. Money, if we took money out of this process of our political system, then I think that we could actually have a voice back. Right now, it's just, you know, insulated, right? Our politicians are insulated by money and they can't hear our voices, right? Yeah. So that's number one. So we need to get money at least out of this process, out of the process of politics. Now, secondary to that, but still very, very important, is profit out of food, news, and health. I think that if we at least took the profit out of these, what I would consider human rights, the most important human rights. Yes, housing is also very important, but these things I believe are where to start. You know, if nobody had to worry about where they were going to be getting fresh fruits and vegetables, you know, what kind of an energy shift would we have, right? So also health, we have, you know, sick care. We don't have, you know, health care right now. So I think so, and media and the media. I mean, we all can relate to it because of what we watched in the 2016. I mean, I know that was where a lot of people woke up and to the reality that the media is not on our side, right? So I think that really, if I'm going to jump in and start with just a few issues that would make the biggest impact, I believe it would be those.
Yeah, good.
I'm also against the next war.
Yeah, and the wars we're in now. Now you're running as a Green, correct? What has it been like? You haven't had as long as candidacy as some. What's it been like for you on the trail? What surprised you and what didn't?
Well, I don't know if anybody has ever run for the reasons that I'm running, right? So little backstory was I'm a lifelong Democrat. I started voting when I turned 18 in 2000, despite some hit pieces by NPR. And I was Democrat. I've always voted Democrat. And in this last election, right, I found out about Bernie Sanders. I was actually ready to vote for Hillary. You know, we were ready. It was her turn, right? And it was my very conservative mother who said, you know, there's another Democrat in the race. You know, you might want to look up Bernie Sanders. And, you know, and because of that, I started speaking out politically for the first time. You know, I posted things about, you know, human rights and things like that. But, you know, mostly, you know, I didn't really speak out on social media. But and I was a normal person, had about 300 friends on Facebook. And then because of Bernie Sanders in this election, I maxed out on friends. They turned me into a public figure, you know, and so all of a sudden I have this crazy platform specifically because of politics, right? So I had a lot of pressure from my followers to run, but I still was, you know, I wasn't serious about it because I didn't know how easy it was. I thought you needed $2 million to fill out the forms. I thought you needed thousands of signatures, right? And so when I actually started looking into this process, it really isn't that hard to get your name on the ballot. So I'm sorry, Freeman, but that's the thing. I didn't announce until I turned in my paperwork on the very last day. Freeman was way more vocal about him running. So they saw him coming. Yeah. They didn't see me coming. And I think that's why I stayed under their radar.
Well, good.
Sorry, Freeman.
Yeah, that's okay. Freeman, what questions do you have for Danielle?
I would like to know, what is it that made you want to run, aside from our conversation? Like, you've been so driven this whole time, and I keep not pushing you away, but keep challenging you in ways that I feel like you'd have to be an excellent congressperson. And a lot of people would shy away from that. Why is this driving you so hard?
I think it's because I've always really been kind of in love with this idea that in America we have a voice through a vote, right? I mean, it's something that we learn even as children, is that we're lucky that we live in a free country, right? That we actually get to shape the way our country goes with our vote, right? And during this last election, it became glaringly clear to me and millions of people that we didn't have a voice. And it really, I think, shook me to the core enough. That, and coupled with the fact that, I just had one too many Democrats say, well, if you don't like the system, do something about it and run. So I'm like, okay, it's just a little bit too snarky for me. So I feel like not many people can say that they've done what I'm doing now. A lot of people can say that they sit on the sidelines and coach from the sidelines. But, I think at this point, I feel like I have to do this. I have to go through this process just, to get my voice back.
Have you found, talking to different people and conservatives, Greens, progressives all over the place, has your worldview changed, perspective changed?
Well, I think that our perspective should always change, or be at least open to change, right? We're not. You want me to shut this door?
Yeah. I'll do it. Go ahead and answer.
So, hold on. Okay. Hopefully this doesn't, last time it got all weird with the Wi-Fi.
Sorry, folks, you have a little bit of an echo issue here internally. Hopefully that will fix it.
Okay. So actually that's been, it's been interesting to be able to talk to so many different people. I think that nobody is an expert at everything, right? And so by ignoring other perspectives and not being open to other people's opinions and perspectives, I really think that we do ourselves a disservice, because we already have enough lines put up. The establishment wants us, divided into as many directions as possible, right? So I really try my very hardest to talk to every demographic, Democrats are a little hard for me because I did Dem exit, and they don't really like to have their stuff called out, right? And so I actually had 2 establishment Dems tell me that it was a slap in the face for me to be running, because they had done so much work, trying to peddle these, candidates that are sort of kind of okay. And I don't.
But didn't they tell you to run?
What's that?
Didn't they tell you to run?
Yeah, right. Exactly. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say that I'm completely irrelevant and I'm going to destroy your party at the same time, right? I don't know. So that's been kind of interesting, just because I am kind of newer to their corruption than I am the Republicans. I shockingly have an easier time talking to conservatives than I do to Democrats. It's, I can talk to them about human trafficking. I can talk to them about a lot of things that, that the Democrats just aren't open to. So now in my district, it's, I think 23% no party preference, which is really, really good for me. Just because the 2 major parties are split so far. Like the Democrats, I think, have 4, Republicans have 7 running in this race. So it's, and you can really tell by just talking to people that people are sick of it. People are, they're ready to vomit, honestly. They don't want anything to do with these 2-party systems. They're really waking up to the fact that they're not being represented at all. And I have Camp Pendleton in my district, they don't want any more ribbons on the door. They don't want to go to war anymore. So it's been very interesting. I've got a large, I think a lot of perspectives are represented in my district. And I think that just makes me stronger, more able to represent them by going out and being open to listening to everything that everybody has to say.
Absolutely. How do you find talking about the difficult issues? Because it seems like on Facebook, at least compared to most politicians, you're talking difficult issues. You talk guns, pedophiles, everything.
Well,
do you feel like you're going to get judged for that?
Please judge me. I think that's my job to be judged, right? Like that's but no, it's not hard for me to do because I haven't sold out to interests that would not like me to talk about these issues, right? So when you talk about being on the campaign trail and, you know, what it's like, I don't think that my campaign has been anything like any of the other campaigns of the major parties, because I'm not having to beg for money. I'm not having to, I guess, compromise my positions to anything except for, you know, my own opinion and what's best for the people of my district. So that's basically what's going on with that.
Do you find that when you get into the general that there's going to be people who aren't really ready to accept a lot of, I guess, some of your positions? Like, you know, the human trafficking is not really talked about.
Human trafficking is going to take a little bit of time for a certain population to understand or to accept. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, that population is dwindling in numbers. I think there's a lot of people waking up to the reality that human trafficking is an issue and our media is not covering it. And usually, you know, I mean, our media covers what they want to cover. Our media covers what they want to promote for an agenda, right? And they don't really focus on us. So, you know. So
it seems like the media oftentimes it's not even so much that they aren't reporting the facts accurately. It's the entire narrative that they set up. And while you and I were doing live streams, we were thinking about the entire narrative that marijuana is bad. And you want to talk a little bit about that? Like not so much marijuana, but in general, narratives from the media, like what they did to Bernie, war, all that.
Right. So one thing that we have to understand is that, you know, we're literally funding the destruction of our planet, right? We kill people like ants in other countries. It's very, very sad, but these are the realities. So when you see a 7-year-old girl on TV in Syria talking about how, you know, we need to come in and, you know, slaughter the military of Syria because, you know, a few of her classmates died, which didn't even really happen. I always look at this like, what are they trying to do? They know we kill people like ants. They don't care about these dead babies, to be perfectly honest. So it's more than just covering up. It seems that they come up with narratives to push agendas to get public approval on really, really awful things. And pedophilia is no different. There, you know, there's been, it's sort of a bit of a rabbit hole, but if you go down it, you don't have to go too far down the rabbit hole to see that Jimmy Savile, who was a British entertainer, he died, a few years ago. He was a horrible pedophile. He had more than 500 victims, and BBC covered for it for 50 years, right? So BBC is not too far removed from what's going on in our media, right? So I think that when you look at examples of pedophiles or potential accused pedophiles, instead of going in and doing the work, having the police go in and actually do investigations on this stuff, they get sympathy interviews a lot of times, especially if they're people in power. And it happens on both the right and the left media. So it definitely is a big problem that we have, and we're going to have to face. Taking profit out of media would go a long way to solving a lot of these problems quickly.
Yeah. And I wonder how you are going to, I guess you may just need to talk about, there are wide differences in understanding between folks who've been following, say, QAnon and how they would view Trump then versus folks who aren't even following QAnon versus the different foreign policy. It seems like a lot of people are blaming different actors. So my question is, with regards to what you were just talking about, how do you plan to, it's like, because a lot of I guess what I'm getting at, a lot of the normal Bernie progressives who are maybe still following Bernie disagree with you a little bit on, I guess, the nature of the problem, right? It seems like they haven't entirely disregarded the media as well, you and I have.
Right. And I mean, and we can actually look at this at Russiagate. That's a really great example. Yes. Yeah. And, the fact that there's just some of even my closest friends are just like obsessed with every little detail coming out about nothing. And there's much bigger fish to fry, honestly. And so, and I think that I've already started to try to break down this narrative a little bit with that RT interview, where it was kind of neat. I was asked to be part of a project where they took social media activists, and we all got together and sent in little clips, hello, I'm Danielle from California and I'm a Russian bot, right? And well, RT picked this up, right? And so they asked for a few people from the video to come on and do an interview on RT talking about why we decided to do this when it's so prevalent in our media that that Russia's being blamed for this. So and they did a really cute clip about, and they mentioned my campaign, talked about money out of politics and things like that. And I think that things like that go a long way to helping people kind of wake up to the reality that something's fishy here. They are trying to paint narratives about countries that haven't been a threat, possibly have never been a threat, but haven't been a viable threat in decades, right? It's like they don't even bother to come up with new stuff. They just reuse old playbooks.
It's like the whole Syria gas attack.
Exactly. They've done that 3 times.
Right. And it's interesting that they're still expected, they honestly, with a straight face, expect us to go to war off of that message. Like, oh, right. There's a gas attack, and we're like, okay, we have weird footage from the hospital showing that's not it.
Right. I think what's going on now is the same thing that's going on with police brutality. People have videos, or they have cameras on there. Everybody has cameras on them, right? So I don't think that this is getting, I don't think police brutality is getting worse. I just think that it's now getting reported on. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that, there's never been a time in history where we can debunk things like chemical gas attacks in real time. And, right. And then the more times that we are able to do this in real time, the more people are going to realize that our media is lying to us. And then, once they start to question, I think we'll be on a much better path to fixing the problem.
Okay. So do I have time for more? Is there
Yeah. Do we have any questions from, I know there's been some stuff going back and forth.
Yeah. We have one from Alpha Gray Knight. How do you plan on standing up to the hydrocarbon industry?
That is again
hydrocarbon instead of oil.
Right. Well, okay. So that it is kind of the same remedy with virtually any problem, right? Our government's been purchased by special interests, right? And this is another industry that throws ridiculous amount of money into our political system so that their voices are heard louder than ours, right? And so to me, I think the quickest way, rinse and repeat with most of these issues, is to just take money out of the whole process. And when that happens, then all of a sudden we're going to have, whether it be the people who are, in power currently, who have lost the ability to fundraise, which I don't think they're going to stay. But I think what more likely is going to happen is it's going to usher in a whole new, class of representatives that actually are ready to get in there and to make changes, make their communities better, instead of fighting for this like incremental change. And we're not even getting incremental change. It's getting worse.
That's the funny thing I find with people who advocate, well, just keep voting blue. And I like to use the argument, how many decades do we want to wait? Like, seriously, it's like it's been 4 decades now and healthcare keeps getting worse. How many decades do we want to wait?
Right. And I think it's great that so many people are politically involved now, but I don't I don't think Doug Applegate is a really good example. I think he's got some really, really progressive policy issues, some platform issues. I think legitimately he is not just saying the right words in the right order. I think that he actually does believe a lot of this stuff, but the fact that he chooses to run, within this current system, this counter-revolutionary system that we've got going on, it really kind of makes me question, if he's capable of making the changes that we need to make, right? Because so I don't know. I don't know if we can achieve what we need to in as quick as we need to actually save this planet by making the kind of incremental change that Doug Applegate would have to be fighting for tooth and nail every single day. How long until he's worn out and just starts to take the money?
Well, and for me, if you don't even call out how our votes may not be counted, I think you're already part of the problem, because if you don't have a realistic vote that you either paper ballots or some kind of trail where everyone's in agreement, you don't really have democracy.
Right. And then there's the even, less subtle example of the fact that there is a progressive who's actually even just saying the right things. And what do the Democrats do? They throw 3 establishment candidates in the race too to neutralize him. It's like, even from the very beginning, even before the first vote is cast, the Democrats are working against him. And I don't know if, we already have enough problems reaching across the aisle, right? I just don't think that we have the time to waste fighting our own parties and the other side. Where could we be using our energy? I mean, there must be much better things that we can be using our energy on other than just fighting for scraps.
Well, what about all the money that was raised in your district? Could we have used that any other places?
Oh, I don't think so, right?
How much was raised?
So far, we are, I believe, maybe no one's been able to disprove this, but I believe that we have the most expensive primary in history at $14.9 million. And I think actually Steve Cox is second. He was number 1. His district was number 1.
Steve, you got aced out, buddy.
Sorry, it's not competition. I feel like this is a horse race. I feel like they're like betting on the ponies. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I even went to a few Democratic club events and whatnot, quite a few. And people honestly believe that raising more money makes you a better candidate. Mm-hmm. And if you measure it by how many ads you can purchase and all the things you do, yes, that's correct. And none of them ever can stop and say, wait a minute, that might actually be the problem right there. And
I believe
fundraising, you can actually go online and yell at John Podesta and whatnot and engage with the public as opposed to spend your time fundraising. Right.
I think Paul Kerr is now a super Democrat because he's raised $4.5 million for the primary.
Nice.
I think that because that's how they rank their Democrats, right?
Yeah.
You can raise money. Oh, I'm going to make, I kind of joke around. I think Tom Perez is making him a plaque somewhere, but yeah, it's just gross. It's like, what can we be doing? And think about how much it's going to be. This is just the primary, this is not even the general election. We're probably going to double that at least by the time we're done. It's like, what can we do with that money in our communities? Why are we wasting it on this process that doesn't help us?
Just think about how much money they're going to raise against you once you pass the June primary. Mm-hmm. That's going to be all hands on deck for the establishment.
It's just, the contrast just keeps growing, right? It just makes me, gives me more of a contrast, which is great. I really don't want to be even called a politician, right? I'm not a politician. And
yes, you are.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, she's not. She's a candidate.
I still drop an F-bomb every once in a while. So I don't think politicians can do your mom jokes.
Yeah. I think one of the most inspiring things that we get from the people that are on the show are the people that are coming from everyday life who are running for reasons much different than politicians have run in the past. So thank you so much for running. I think we do want to move into Joseph's segment. But where can people go to help you to find out more information about your campaign?
You can go to humanitarises.info, Or for those who are, we actually have two websites. So that for those who are really not that politically minded, you can go to readytovomit.com.
We'll have those. There you go. I'm readytovomit.com. This is evidently this is a sign that you can see along the sides of the roads among all the political signs, and then you get to see this. So I kind of
okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. We just need more voices like you out there promoting the right kind of candidates. That's the only way we're going to get our country back. So thank you.
Wow. And sorry about the lights.
Oh, now your lighting is beautiful now.
It's perfect now, right?
Well, now Danielle's blown out because she's.
I know. Now I'm all yeah. We're gonna have to fire.
We're going to shift over anyway to Joseph Sakata. He's got a few more campaigns that from this season that he wants to give a shout out to.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Okay,
bye. Bye. You're muted, Joe.
Okay. So I have a few races that we should be looking out for the California June 5th primary. I'm just going to go through them really quickly since we're running short on time. First candidate I want to mention, Kenneth Mejia. I've already talked about him in my previous Progressive California segments in the past. He's running in California's 34th district, of course, taking no corporate money whatsoever. He's for everything on the Green Party platform: Medicare for all, tuition-free college, debt, college student loan forgiveness. He's for the Green New Deal, and his race is unique, as in there's only 3 people running in it. The incumbent, Jimmy Gomez, he's a Democrat. He's a corporate Democrat, a libertarian, and him. No Republicans are running in this race. So if you see Jimmy Gomez going out there and saying, "Oh, there's a Republican in my race," no, there isn't. He's just strawmanning you to try to get money. So that's California's 34th district. I'm fairly confident that Kenneth Mejia will actually make it in, beat the libertarian, but it's still something to look at. And if he goes into the general, that's basically a Green taking on a Democrat, and it's a very winnable race. So we're just gonna keep our eye on that. Next is another candidate that we've actually had on the show before, Angelica Duenas. All right. I always butcher her name, sadly. But she's a Green Party candidate, once again, not taking any corporate money whatsoever. She's on board with the Green New Deal, for Medicare for all, for tuition-free college, for all the right issues. And her race is unique in a way that actually gives her a better chance than she had initially when she actually came onto our show, because the incumbent in the race, Tony Cardenas, a Democrat, is currently in a lawsuit. Well, what kind of lawsuit? Well, there's an allegation against him that he sexually assaulted a teenage girl back in the day when he was a city council person, I believe. And while the details of that are a little bit more shady and it's a little bit more complicated than simply, oh, he's been accused and it looks like he might have done it, he might not have done it. While the details of that are iffy, the fact that he is being accused of it, voters are starting to see that and they're going, oh, well, maybe I should vote for someone else in this race. So it's very possible that Angelica Duenas can somehow end up in the top 2 and go through into the general. And plus, she's running a great platform. I think independence and early voting is actually looking fairly good for her right now. So we'll see how that race turns out. If she goes through into that race, then it'll probably be a Democrat who ends up in the top 2 as well. So that would be another Green taking on a Democrat situation. We might end up getting 2 Green Party folks in Congress. Next race that I want to go to is the California's 1st congressional district. This is actually someone that we probably should have had on, but we never really got the chance to. Audrey Denny, she's been endorsed by Justice Democrats. She's been endorsed by Our Revolution National. David Hildebrand, who's currently running for Senate right now, has actually given his check mark of approval in a sense. She's taking no corporate money whatsoever. She's for Medicare for all. She's all for the right issues. She has some very interesting ideas about agriculture because that's an issue that's currently affecting her district. And she's taking on a Republican. And she's go to audreyforcongress.com if you want to learn more about her. And I actually know someone who actually currently works for her campaign. And according to him, there can be more people phone banking for her. So if you are into that sort of thing, and if you want to support someone who's progressive and who I consider would have an actual chance in this race, maybe look at Audrey Denny. If you like what she has going on, maybe go phone bank for her. And the last race that I really want to point to is California's 25th congressional district, Jess Phoenix. Now, we've had her on Uphill Media several times, different shows. She's the volcanologist, course, and she's taking on a Republican incumbent, Steve Knight. And she's a progressive Democrat. Now, her race is interesting because there are three Democrats mainly in the race: Jess Phoenix, Brian Caforio, who is another progressive in the race. Justice Democrats has endorsed him. It's a very bizarre situation because Jess Phoenix has been endorsed by Our Revolution, while Brian Caforio has been endorsed by Justice Democrats. So there's two different candidates backed by two progressive organizations. And there's a third, some semi-progressive Democrats. I say semi-progressive because she tends to sound more centrist than anything. Now, the interesting thing about Jess Phoenix, I would say, is that despite running a very progressive campaign and not really taking any corporate money, she's somehow been able to gain the support of both Bernie Sanders people as well as Hillary Clinton supporters. And I think she's mainly been able to do this by mainly focusing on the fact that she's a scientist, and her issue, and one of the issues that she wants to take on is climate change. She's been very clear about that. She's been fairly straightforward about that. And at the same time, while she's perfect on policy and she's not taking corporate money, she does tend to compliment certain corporate Democrats when they do the right thing. And I think Hillary Clinton supporters generally tend to favor that. And she's actually praised Maxine Waters in the past when she stood up to Trump. Now, it's you can argue as to whether or not Maxine Waters deserved that kind of praise, but she's played the game really nicely in a way that has gained her the support of both sides. And I think she has a real great chance of getting into the top two, into the general. And hopefully hopefully she'll come back on if she goes through into the general to give us more updates in the future. But those are the four races that I think we should be keeping an eye on. Of course, on June 5th, we'll be doing live primary coverage, and we'll get to learn more about what's happening with the disastrous California Senate race and all that fun stuff. So make sure to tune in.
Awesome. Joseph, wow, you did that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So as Joseph mentioned, upcoming on Uphill Media, we have got Tuesday night primary coverage, and we don't have a jerry-rigged sign. We have our very own sign for that now. So that's going to be starting about 7:30 on Tuesday evening. We will be bringing in PolRev Live and their commentaries, and we will have Joseph on the line, and we will have, I think, David Hildebrand reporting from their watch party, hopefully Adriel Hampton from his watch party, and maybe Freeman coming in from wherever you're going to be watching. So stay tuned for that. We won't keep you up too late, but we will cover the races that matter. And I think that brings us to our end. We have a song that I asked Freeman to choose the song tonight. Freeman, tell us a little bit about the Desert Dwellers and why you chose Wandering Sadhu.
I don't have a very good spiel to give you on this, other than that happened to be what my ex-girlfriend was listening to a little while back. And now that I'm listening to it on Spotify, and you're like, Freeman, give me a song. I'm like, Wandering Sadhu.
I thought it had some deep spiritual meaning. You really disappointed me, Freeman.
Well, I gave you Tupac and you rejected it. So.
I didn't reject it. YouTube rejected it. We would have gotten blocked instantly in every country in the world if we'd played Tupac. So just know he wanted everybody go listen to Tupac Changes, because that's the song we really should be going out. But for now, we are going to go out with the Desert Dwellers. Thank you, everybody, for your patience with our technical difficulties. It was great to have two good candidates introduced tonight, and four more reminded about. We will see you on Tuesday night, 7:30, same place. Thank you all for being here. So let's go and zen out with the Desert Dwellers.
The problem is that Joe is on the same channel as the music.
Oh,
so
that's right. Joe sits in there. Okay.
All right, here we go, everybody.
And it's got to fade up into the song. It's a good 10 seconds before you really feel it.
It does. Oh, no, I put Joe on another camera. You guys can sit there. Before we go, I just got a question. The guy, Joe, that was running, that's got the sexual allegations against him?
Oh, yeah.
Why doesn't he just switch parties?
Because he's a California representative. You can't win in California if you're a Republican usually, especially if it's already a blue district.
Yeah, but he'd get all their support now. Here's the song, everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Plus the 15-second. It's already started. It's already started. What's going on here, kids?
Here's the thing, like I can't even hear the song because of the way the audio is, but it looks like it's pretty effed. I have no idea what the YouTube's doing here. It just keeps running around in a circle here. So I don't know. We may end up without a song. Just well, they can't even hear you, Laura. Audio's just a mess. Everybody here, it looks like it's going again. No, it's not. It was very meditative. YouTube seems to have crashed on this machine. So just, yeah. Well, yeah, of course you're seeing as a cover. You guys just, oh, there it is. It started again. All right. Nobody can hear any of this stuff. You guys are great. Thank you for being here. And if you want this to be a better production, help us donate. Thanks. Bye.